Everyone, we're going to call the committee of the whole meeting to order 1 p.m. May 8th, 2024. We respectfully acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the unceded traditional territory of the Secwepemc. Recommendation that the committee of the whole meeting agenda for May 8th, 2024 be approved as circulated. Councillor Evans, Councillor Beach, all in favor. Thank you. Carried. Recommendation of the minutes of the committee of the whole meeting held on April 24th, 2024 be adopted. Can I get a mover on that? Councillor Beach, Councillor Bailey, all in favor. Carried. Thank you. It's hard to see Gord on Zoom. He's got that great big light behind him.
To turn this one more.
Oh, there he goes. Yeah, I think he heard you.
Pardon?
Can raise their electronic hand.
Yeah, they can, that might be easier to see.
To see that.
Yeah,
That better?
Yeah, that's
good. Thanks, Gord. Yeah, that sun was blasting in right behind you there.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks.
Perfect. Okay. Okay, delegations. We have Sycamoose Communities in Bloom. Deb, take it away.
Okay, so this is going to be a fairly, I guess, fairly casual update. I know a lot of times I'll just sneak them in at the public input at the end. And I was just worried that I haven't given an update for a while. And honestly, the public input at the end, I look at you guys, your eyes are all glass.
no, we're always a big.
Kind of funny.
Sorry.
We're just amazed.
First of all, I really want to thank council and staff for not only proclaiming this Communities in Bloom Week, but all of the great posts that are going out every day. I don't know if you guys have been checking them out, but it's kind of this whole idea of an awareness campaign for Communities in Bloom, and that did you know all of these things are Community in Bloom and they're excellent. So Campton and Sarah, really appreciate all their help on that. So it's too early. It's kind of a weird time. We had Communities in Bloom Week, so I thought it was a good time to talk to you, but it's a little too early for any of the plantings yet. But what we have been doing, and my partner in crime, Tammy, and I have been working hard on the arts part of it. And so I don't know if you guys have noticed, but we finished off the front of Mark Burnside's chain link there, and then the little corners. So we had not totally, but a mostly funky theme for this year. And because that is the festival headquarters for the Funky Fest, we decided, and it's downtown and we're all about downtown revitalization, we wanted to finish that off. So I'm also working with Rakesh a bit in terms of, he's on his own got a lot of local art in his area, but we're also contributing to art boards to the ones that are facing either Maine or Paradise as part of, arting up that area too. So we're talking about doing this idea of an art district. Like I mentioned to you guys before, the art and heritage trail maps that we're working with Sheila on. And we hope that, I don't see any reason those wouldn't be done by this summer. They're, like we've got good material to work with already. We just wanted to finish off getting some of our art out this year. And then we'll finish that off and get those out. Chris Bloom is putting up in front of his site facing Main Street, hiding his really ugly trailer. But he's doing it for us. He's putting up a really nice paddle board, art board, large one that has been done. And so we're getting into this whole idea of the art district. Daryl, working with Tammy, got the banners in a good location. We're thinking everything kind of from the Legion around the corner to the Red Barn as being like our art district. And what fits in really nicely with that, of course, is this wonderful architectural monument that will be our healing center. So we're kind of really, we're going to talk a little bit more, with Daryl and that, and about signage and whatever, but things are really kind of coming together, I think, nicely on that front. So now the other thing that of course I had told you about, the whole idea of activating spaces and doing the farmers market. So we're getting some good traction on that. We have been accepted to the BC Farmers Market Association Nutrition Coupon Program again, which I understand is good for about $2,000 worth of nutrition coupons that can be allocated to qualifying low-income families in the community. I asked them this year if there's an honorarium I get for being part of that program. I have asked them if this year they would convert my honorarium to nutrition coupons. So we will get an uptick from that too. As well, I'm still looking at some ways to try and boost that program up to maybe get some support for seniors meals program and some other things. We've got 3 full-time farmers, not full-time farmers, 3 farmers that are committed full-time to the market. So for all the markets, plus a few others that are going to be part-time. So we're really, really pushing this whole idea of the family activity, service groups and that so that we can get the numbers out. We're only going to keep those vendors as long as we've got people coming out. So I'm going to be doing hot dogs. We're going to donate to service groups. I had a real good meeting with the high school this morning and we're talking to them about how they can participate. Yeah, I'm cautiously optimistic. The farmers market will only be May 24th, this one first Morel themed market, and then not again until July 5th, which I'm really hoping we can be tight and focused and get lots of people out. I was a little concerned about if you have a slow period and then people don't come out, I lose my vendors. So it's everybody tell all your friends, make sure they all come out. I've got some really nice posters the Chambers helped me with. We're getting those out. So really, really important to make that work. We have registered again for Canada's Garden Route. They seem to be having a little trouble with their site, but I'm working with them on that. And what else am I forgetting about? Oh, of course, the judge will be coming to town July 8th and 9th. I'm talking to people about being part of the itinerary. One of the reasons I've really been trying to get into the high school and talk to them is we have been very short on youth participation since that first year they did their benches, and we really haven't had youth participation since then. So I'm really, really pushing to get that going. So yeah, working with Daryl when he gets me the hanging baskets, I'll make sure the participating businesses get them, and like I'm looking forward to everything happening there. So I don't know if you guys have any questions, because like I say, I haven't been.
Deb, thank you very much. I mean, thanks for all that you do and all that you coordinate and organize. And so we really do appreciate that. And thank you for being part of the community cleanup as well. So thank you very much. We're fortunate to have you here. Very fortunate.
Through the chair, yep. Yeah, you guys just do an awesome job every year. It just seems to get better. Just a question, and maybe I missed it. Is May 24th one, it's gonna be a big send off, right? It's gonna be a bigger, hopefully a big first one.
Yeah, and we called it a special themed market. I get a little nervous about it being a big send off because then we don't do it for, right? So you kind of, I'm absolutely about it being like, hey, this is going to be great things to come, but I'm slightly nervous about it being a big opening.
Okay, I guess my question is there any thought to, and have you in past years incorporated live entertainment on those?
We're gonna have live entertainment. I have a local business person and we are sponsoring to have a musician there every week.
Okay.
So, and I know that we're going to have booze there every week. Like I've got either a winery, cidery, brewery, and distillery there. At least one every week, sometimes 2. And then we're going to have the music. We're going to have a local service group. We'll be doing the hot dogs. They'll be doing part of that. Kids activities every week. I've got a magician. I've got the chainsaw carving guy coming back. I've got, yeah, so I really want it to be as much a community event as it is a market. So the community event supports the market, market supports the community, and it's just, you know, win-win.
Sounds great.
Awesome. Thanks, Deb. Anyone else? Go ahead, Malcolm.
Yeah, sorry, I missed the date. Was that, thank you. Was that the 21st or 24th?
May 24th, so we're
24th.
continuing, much to some people telling me I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. We're continuing with the Friday 4 to 7. I really didn't want to compete with the Saturday morning when Revelstoke and Salmon Arm are already doing it then. It's then how do I get the farmers and the vendors out, right? So that makes it a bit of a different sort of market. It makes it more of a, you know, like mid-afternoon, late evening, early evening event. But it also allows us to get vendors to come in that we wouldn't otherwise get. I really tried to keep the supporting the local, and it's not only from a standpoint of local support, it's also about recognizing that with the cost of getting around these days, if you have somebody driving, you know, unless they're coming once, twice, 3 times, it's, you know, they're gonna get tired of it real quick, the big gas bills, if they're not doing good sales, right? So it, you know, it's really about trying to be conscious of that too, so.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay, and I will get back to you guys as far as the judges and the itinerary. I haven't honestly done much word from that, other than they're arriving July 8th, their room is booked, and then they leave on July 9th. And we are doing the reduced ones, so it's not gonna be nearly as scary as it is the others where, you know, like you've got 2 solid days and you know, an itinerary this big to get through an evaluation and prep. So it'll be a little bit more manageable.
Thanks, Deb. Thank you, Tammy. I'm just gonna do a sound check board. Siobhan, can you guys hear all right? Or do you want these guys to maybe turn their mics on?
No, I can hear it good and loud and clear, Colleen.
Thanks, Siobhan.
Yeah, excellent. It's all good.
You're good?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Okay.
So never thought about that part.
So we're gonna do, next, we're gonna continue on the Sycamoose Fire Department. We're gonna get a verbal report from Chief Lorenzo. Welcome.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Hey. Okay, so today it's going to be a verbal report on some of the planning that's coming up, something that I've touched on perhaps in the past with some of you, but maybe a little bit more broader today. So the Sycamoose Fire Department strategic plan, I'm looking at really having it implemented from 2025 to 2030. So this year, a lot of the planning is going to go into discovering, you know, the standards and references and the risk analysis, the programs and services, and then the resources and performances to get there for the strategic plan. But the baseline for the strategic plan is going to be what our needs are in the community. And I touched on it before, the HRVA, so the hazard risk vulnerability analysis. What I mentioned in the past is right now, one event would put us in a tight spot for emergency response. 2 will really put us in a dangerous spot because we're so unique here with the rail and forestry and the highway and everything else. We really have to have a hard look at what that looks like for emergency services. So the strategic plan will reflect that. The HRVA is pretty robust study that I'm hoping we can do in-house or like borrow and steal from others, but we will have something implemented so that we can have a good picture, a good snapshot of what we're actually looking at. Because right now we're only speculating. So that is the community part of it. The other part is recruitment. We've had a really good response to recruitment right now since I've changed the command structure. It's very clear and identified. What I'm focusing on is my leadership core for the fire department. I need that so that we have a good succession plan in the future. And just like everybody in this room, we've all had some role in leadership, and it's the same thing with firefighters, even support when they're coming in. I want to provide that to everybody so that they'll have an opportunity. I've had a really good feedback of people wanting to step up, wanting to get the additional training, and looking forward to being placed in those leadership roles, which will help us ultimately, because we will have more than one person directing and organizing the fire department. As much as I love doing it, I need good ideas and good people to help me along. So that's my plan for recruitment and succession planning. I also wanted to touch on a little bit on, there's been some questions regarding the fire center bans and restrictions. So we follow Kamloops Fire Center ban, that's the zoning that we're in. And I really don't see any need to deviate from that at any way, shape or form. It's not something that we should be entertaining, because it is providing us the direction. If we want to go before that and start implementing burn bans prior to what they are implementing, then we could entertain that, but it's just better to be concise with everybody else. So this is something that's been asked of me in the recent last couple of weeks. So that's my opinion on that, and I strongly feel that we just need to stick with that. If there's something we need to provide for Sycamoose where people want to do more slash burning or for farming or whatnot, we definitely have to implement a permit system and have people stick to it, because anything outside of that is going to be problematic. Especially if the fire department doesn't know what is being burned and what time of year. So it's a short one. I'm open to any questions. I also want to encourage everyone here to stop by the fire department, fire hall, come by and say hi. We're doing a massive spring cleanup, and we've been working really hard at getting the apparatus ship shape. Some of our rigs, it's not good for them to sit long, so we're testing them all. We're running them through water, and this is really important because they're designed to move just like us, right? They have to be switched on and moved and run through. So please come by, say hello. It's open to everyone. We do have some short-term plans of some of the members have expressed, and I've put it out there, that we'd like to have some circuit training there available to everyone at different levels. So fire hall's perfect for that. The parking lot, we can set up stations 20 minutes at all different levels where you can come, you can skip rope, you can lift some tires, you can really small stuff just to be visible in the community. And it's good for recruitment, it's good for mental health, it's good for physical health, it's good for everything. So please look for that. We're sharing that, some of those dates, and we offer it to everybody.
Awesome. Thanks, Chief. Councillor Rich.
Hi, welcome to Sycamoose. We haven't met yet, so good to meet you and thank you for coming and being in our beautiful community. I've got two questions for you, Lorenzo. One is, we had spoken, not we, you and I, but council had spoken with Rescue. We had Sycamoose Rescue here in town, and they were talking about amalgamating with our local fire department. Any updates? Yeah, I know you're just like, you're on the ground running, but I'm just wondering if there's anything going on there. That would be my first question.
Yeah, and nice to meet you, and hopefully we can meet in person one day. Okay, the short hazard risk analysis that I've done for taking on road rescue is we would love to take it on. I'd welcome it. It's something that I'm very familiar with and have experience in, both highway and city and other levels. Our firefighters are willing and ready to take it on, and also the leadership is too. However, there's two parts to this. First part being, if we do begin responding to MVIs within the district, on the highway, anywhere, the way it stands right now, without first responder training, we can only stabilize a vehicle. and hold it until paramedics come. Paramedics also have a threshold of protocol that they won't enter a vehicle if it's not fully stabilized. They don't do rescue. They don't do those operations. So I'm happy and willing to take it on. However, it has to be married with first responder training. So when we do take it on, I think first we'll have to take on the first responder training with the core group of people, our officers, our leaders, and then take on the MVI, the road rescue, and incorporate it all. The face of our department will change. It will no longer be a fire department, it'll be fire rescue services. And that's also showing that we are much more robust. We don't just go to fires, right? So having said that, that is going to double our call volume. And now we have to look at staffing. Now we have to look at making sure we have the checks and balances when we take that service on, because there's no rhyme or reason with any emergency. It could be a long weekend, it could be a quiet night in September, we don't know, but we need to make sure we have staffing, we have the training, we have the support to take it on. So I'm more than willing to apply the first responder courses very quickly. I've already asked some agencies and they can provide it. And then we can begin to amalgamate and take that on.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Bushel.
Thank you through the chair. Yeah, Lorenzo, welcome. Thanks for the update. I just had a couple questions. We were at Silga and there was a lot of talk about Fire Smart and forestry resilience and things like that. And one thing I always wondered about, and they did talk about forest landscape plans, and I don't know, they didn't really get into it, but they were all talking about, making sure you get your forest landscape plans in order. So I don't know if Brett had ever did anything like that, or I just wanted to check with you on that. And then one other quick one was, one thing I noticed when I was a kid and I always came to BC, there was always those signs on the side of the road that told you the fire rating when you come into a community, and be high or medium. And I wondered if, is there ever an idea if it would also help with all the, fires we've been having lately, and educating the tourists how high the fire, the fire rating is. So I just wondered if there's ever any thoughts about, BC Forestry, or we could work with BC Forestry and getting some kind of sign as you enter into town that could tell us the rating of the forest fires and stuff like that. So those are a couple pointers for you. Thank you.
Yeah, so just so I stay on track with the second request there, the rating sign is important, and it would be, it's not the first thing you want to see coming into the town, but it is an important piece. So strategically, where would we place it? Because the welcoming sycamore signs are beautiful and I wouldn't want to take away from that. But somewhere maybe before you come into the town, I think it's a great idea to implement that on both sides for sure. So we can definitely look into that. And the first question, I'm not sure if I heard it correctly, forest escape plan, is that what you mentioned?
No, it's called a forest landscape plan.
Okay.
Forest landscape plan.
So that's similar to Fire Smart from the sounds of it. Yeah. Okay. So I'll have to get back to you on that one, because I will discuss it with our FSC, our Fire Smart coordinator. But it sounds like it's along the lines of what we're already doing, Fire Smart, going in, hazard risk, doing the analysis, and then helping with the cleanup or doing the full cleanup, depending on people's ability or time or whatever. Yeah. So it sounds very similar, but I'll make sure that I verify that.
Okay. Thanks very much, Lorenzo. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Evans.
Thanks, through the chair. I was gonna ask you, you mentioned recruitment. I was wondering how that's going. Do we have enough firefighters? Are you looking for more to get to a certain number right now, or seems going that way?
Well, I would have liked to share with you today the overall new structure, because it's laid out specifically for your entry level person all the way up to an officer. And that's important because people people that come into firefighting, they are a certain type of person that already have that impulse to lead and be part of a team. So I can never have enough firefighters, to be honest with you, because I could always find ways to get them in a support, different levels of training, and also mentorship. So what we're surprisingly this week, we've had five or six applicants, and I just had one. The man almost made me late coming to this meeting, but I had to give him a minute and a card, and he's gonna come back in about a half an hour. So it's been great. There is a lot of interest. There are people coming back that were for whatever reason stopped being part of the fire department. So our numbers are good, but my leadership numbers are not. And that's what I'm looking at now, is making sure I have the courses available to my leadership core so that we always have coverage. We always have that leadership. The entry-level firefighters are important, but they're limited on what they can do. Leadership has the experience and knowledge that they can gather those resources and use that when they need to apply for an emergency. So right now, that's much more important, is getting my leadership dialed in. In the meantime, I can slowly bring firefighters up at different levels at entry and support, and we've also implemented a change where we are using the US model of a fire engineer or an apparatus driver. Some of our members, they have limitations, they've expressed that, and they would rather just do that. So we've appointed them, we're gonna do, that's something that we definitely need. So that's an understanding now with everyone, is when they show up, fire engineers always driving, always pumping. It's just a much smoother process. Cool.
Great, thanks. A follow-up?
Yeah, please.
Okay,
Works. And the quick question is, where are we at with fire rating right now? In that, what's the limit that people can have? Like, can they have a campfire right now? That kind of thing?
Just before the meeting, I did bring it up.
Okay.
And there doesn't seem to be any ban as of today, which I heard otherwise yesterday.
mhm.
Yeah, so category 3 probations started Kamloops fire, but other than that. So open fire prohibition throughout Kamloops. The affected areas, I didn't see anything yet, but that was May 3rd. So it may have changed. But again, with some of the requests that have been made, we are gonna have more of a digital footprint for that kind of stuff also. So we have a Facebook page, which is okay, but I really do like the Sicamous Instagram page, and who's the guru in that? That's okay. So Sarah, you do an incredible job. I just want to piggyback on that with you more, and with the fire ratings and everything else. Because it's laid out perfectly, but we want more of a digital footprint. And then that way we'll be updating I know not everybody is on Instagram, but it's another piece. And yeah, so as of today, for the probation says nothing, but I need to verify that because it seems to be changing day by day.
Yeah.
Thank you, McCabe.
Yeah, thank you. This might be a repeat of Councillor Bushel's question, but in our convention, we went to Southern Ontario Local Government Association, SILGA. There was a workshop on wildfires. And in that workshop, they suggested that every community should have a wildfire emergency management plan. And in that plan, there should be prevention, mitigation, response, and recovery. So, and our fire crew a couple of years ago fought a fire at 2 Mile that stopped the town from burning down, and that was a wildfire. So I guess my question is, how is our fire rescue integrated with wildfire management?
The short answer is, if it was anything beyond our district or encroaching, we would call in forestry to manage it and help. Anything within the boundaries, close to structure, close to district, is something that we have to handle. So, but that doesn't mean we'd definitely be working together and be communicating together. As far as having the wildfire emergency plan, that is a big part of that HRVA that we need to have because I've spoken to some individuals where they felt, and not necessarily on Sycamus, but that the evacuation orders were either redundant or not precise, or it had impaired communications with their loved ones on either side of the fire line and whatnot. So we want to make sure we have clear, defined plans for people that have family on one end, livestock possibly. But we need to be able to define that and have a plan so that people are able to still move when there are restrictions. That's one thing that I've noticed is not clearly defined yet. So that's why that our HRVA is going to cover everything and give us levers to pull and have an understanding that this is the plan when this happens. And right now, fortunately, we don't have that. We're doing piecemeal on every kind of emergency, but I'm confident I have the experience and knowledge to get us there. It's just I can't do it right away, and I'd really like to, but I have plans in place, and I do have I haven't implemented some things right away. And as I mentioned, now I'm going to sound like a broken record, but that leadership core is so good. It really is. Because everybody is asking me for direction. What can I do? What can we do? And I'm beginning to provide that for them, but I have to clearly define and see what skill set people have, what credentials they have, because I can't put someone in a leadership role that doesn't have that. It's very dangerous, because that's all on me, right? So I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
We have to plan for it.
Thank you. Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, welcome and thanks for being here. It's a nice place to come from, the Lower Mainland. I moved here 5 years ago, so yeah, I'm sure you'll love it. Question for you, but probably also looking at Bianca and Kelly. When we had Kelly Hazelton here about the Eagle Valley Rescue Society, I'm just wondering, where are we? Because there was a couple of things that had to happen after that. We said, yeah, we like it in principle, and we're talking about the fire and now the rescue piece, and that is quite a different piece. I'm just wondering where all of this is at. So, I mean, feel free to that, but I know there was also some other, obviously, financial implications and components to it too.
So just to start, if I may, we were really waiting for our new chief to start to figure out how that would be integrated. And that's what Lorenzo's met with Kelly. I think they've hugged, they've cried together, all that. They're working it out. It is a bigger task than I think we originally thought.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have to work with our partners. I think we're probably gonna have to work with humans, CSRD, to figure out how it works. Because at the end of the day, currently they're taking on a large piece of the Trans-Canada that's not even in municipal boundaries. So we don't want to put that whole cost on our taxpayers when really, I mean, half of them are Albertans coming through, right? Like, that's who we're protecting. So it's a big job, and Lorenzo's working through it. And we're gonna work through together on what that financially looks like and who's funding it. Yeah.
Right.
It's getting looked at.
Councillor Beach.
Through the chair, I just want to delve a little deeper into what Malcolm started to refer to, and I think maybe Gord was making reference to at this SILGA conference. We talked about the mitigation effort at the urban forest barriers, and I know that we have done some of that around our community in the past. So could you just say a little bit about where that kind of falls into the plan?
Again, this sounds like a more direct question towards the fire, the FSC. And if you're not familiar with it, and I'm just becoming familiar with it with what Travis does, is a lot of it is that hazard risk analysis. and then providing the service immediately. So provincially, anything beyond our boundaries is also looked at and cleaned and cleared for higher risk. And that's continually going on all over. That is on a provincial level that's happening. So that if anything were to happen higher elevations, it won't encroach on us. So there's always assessments and cleanup and work being done to make sure that we have an understanding of this is probably the threshold, right? And I'm pointing at the mountainsides. But on our level here in Sycamoose, that's what the Fire Smart coordinator does, is they go around and they will assess acreage, shops, anything that have that potential wildland brush or ag urban interface fire, where if they can mitigate it, they will put out a suggestion and ask people if they need help to get it done. Then we have staff to actually do it. It's a great service because it provides a valuable service to people potentially that might not be able to do it. And it helps the whole community. So if we could build on that more, I would like to see it, definitely. But the thing is, I have to get a lay of the land here. And I haven't had an opportunity yet to really drive around the entire district to see physically what our boundaries look like. I know what it looks like on a map, but when you go there, you're like, oh, this is really the cutoff. It's a totally different thing. And as I mentioned, we're very unique here. You know, not everybody has this kind of topography and the rail and the highway and everything else. So, okay. I mean, to give you an example, Silver Sands, and thanks to Gord, you know, we came up with the quick contingency plan because how are we going to get there, right? So we're basically going under the bridge on the side by side to do a size up. I need to do more. I need to make sure that I have a contingency plan for any possibility. But to do that, I've got to get a real good lay of the land. And that's why that hazard risk vulnerability analysis is so big. And I may be looking for volunteers to help with that, people that have expertise and good understanding or good understanding of the area and can help me with traps, for lack of a better term. So yeah, that is something we have to do. And we can also reach out to the CSRD and come up with a good plan. Once we reach that understanding, then we'll have a better grip on how much more people we need. Let's say in the fire department, or do we need to branch off? Yeah.
Cool. Bianca, did you want to?
Yeah, just with our Fire Smart program, I know our community wildfire protection plan, we do have one. It is coming to the end of its life and it's a requirement for our Fire Smart grant. So Travis is well aware of that, and it'll be within the next 2 years that we're required to get it redone, and then to keep our Fire Smart funding going forward.
Perfect. Thank you. Councillor Rich.
Hi, I'm back with question number 2. So I don't know if you know or don't know, you drive to Salmon Arm, I'm sure, and out to Revelstoke and around. We do have several homeless camps that are outside of Sycamoose at this time. Sometimes we do get homeless camps within Sycamoose. I'm wondering if you're in, and honestly, it scares me because since the fires last year, out in Celesta and out in Turtle Valley and through that, and again with us a few years back, is there a plan with CSRD just to approach these folks and kind of give them some tips and trades on not getting our bush going? And is that something you do with CSRD? Because I mean, and I understand, like right now the camps are outside of Sycamoose, but on the way to Salmon Arm, and there's a few out towards Malaqua, on the Forest Service roads. But again, you know, that could burn Sycamoose down.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's on my day-to-day, I size up and pre-plan for risks that I can see. A warehouse, large building, and those ones I can't. right? Those are encampments that I could track one day and then very next day they could be gone. But I do have experience in large encampments in the city of Vancouver and in Richmond. And the big thing is getting out there in a presence in the task force with our CMP if we can, maybe forestry and myself, fire department. And getting to know the people and letting, educating them on perhaps where they're staying. It might not even be permitted to do any kind of overnight camping. It might be crown land. I don't know, but educate them, track them, and also help them understand that they're now generating a huge risk, as you mentioned. So with the RCMP here in town, that's something that when we begin to have an understanding that there is a group or people that are staying longer instead of transient, then we'll have to approach it that way. We will go there every day if we have to. And I'll be happy to take away propane and anything that's in the area that they're not allowed to use, within the boundaries of Sycamus, right? I'll be happy to do that and provide that service. But yeah, again, we could probably generate a hotline or something if someone does know of the areas that they share it with the fire department and police, and that we get a task force out there. And a little bit of outreach is really important. We don't just want to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we don't just want to come in as hard as the AHJ, if they already have a jurisdiction, and say, move it along. Because they could be in real trouble. And then we're not doing them a service if it's a mental health risk. So a little bit of outreach, and then the enforcement can come immediately after that with some guidance. But yeah, I would need help in tracking it and locating it, and then getting the resources out there to do the outreach.
Awesome.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna task Gord with that. He probably knows where they are. So
Excellent.
that's
Thank you.
awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chief, for your time, and we'll let you get back to your interview. But really appreciate all the information and really good questions from council. So thank you very much.
Thanks. Have a good afternoon.
You as well. Okay, our Sycamus Health, our Community Health Center update, Karen.
Presentation.
Just your staff.
Through the chair. It's intercorporate, the folder. I thought that it was previously opened, but it's a PDF.
Oh, but okay,
That's fine.
Good afternoon, everybody. Mayor and council members, Chair, this is the healthcare update. So as of April 30th, our total patient panel is seen within the last 2 years is 2655. And in those seen not in 2 years plus is 3090. Now, compared to at the beginning of January, it was a little bit more it was 2670 and 3075. It kind of equals out. So it's a difference of 10 patients. And there's a lot of people die in the last little while, and some people move. So that makes up for that, just a small difference of 10. So we are getting calls every day about whether we're taking on new patients and what have you, and we'll be doing that, but that's for the next conversation. Okay, so again, this is as of, I compared January of last year to April of this year, same dates. So total visits 4,100 this year compared to last year 4,242. So a little bit down. It's a small decrease of about 3%. However, bearing in mind that as January and February, Dr. Alam was working 0.5 FTE and then not here at all in March and April. So, the difference of 142 visits is really quite something that Dr. Edmondson and Jennifer Post-Balfour have really done an amazing job of taking care of Dr. Alam's patients. So, and other patients, walk-ins and what have you. So walk-ins continue to be a pretty big part of the service. So 365 as of this year at April, and it was 297 last year. So that's a significant increase. And telehealth is down a little bit, but we expect that now that people are wanting to be back in the clinic and that type of thing. So yeah, so the team has really done a great job of taking care of the patients, and Dr. Alam's departure, and while we wait for Dr. Katingo to arrive. Now, part of that is the rural locum program is a real great benefit for rural communities. And so Dr. Kelsey Ferg also really helped to take care of those patients that are right now would be not orphaned, but they're, without their family doctor. And so the way the rural program works is that each rural physicians get 33 days a year that they can access the program, and that's for their vacation and what have you. So Dr. Ferg served the community for 5 days in February while Dr. Edmondson was away. And then in March, we used those 3 days, and then April 1st, the fiscal kicks in. And because none of the doctors were on holidays, we just had this gap. I was able to apply and was granted the 33 vacancy days. And if those get used up, I can apply for an additional supplemental 33 days, but I'm not sure that that's going to happen. We do have a listing on the website for it, but we haven't had any commitments yet. But we do have local coverage until the fall. So Dr. Ferg is doing 21 of those 33 days, and she might service in August as well. So during a recent gap analysis research, it was done by the BC Rural Health Network and the Center for Rural Health Research at UBC. They heard that rural residents feel a real lack of engagement in the planning process and that community needs are not always well understood. So as a result, they are conducting a series of regional consultations to hear from rural residents and what the next steps should be or could be. So Interior Health, their focus groups are going to be held on May 23rd and 30th. And so if anybody is interested in attending those, it's virtual. And so you can reach out to myself, and I can put you on to Phoebe Legier, from the BC Rural Health Network, and we'll get that sorted out. So there is a small, you get paid $25 to sit in on these and participate. So it's important to get the rural voice heard, because that was the biggest gap that they found. The rural initiatives and rural health isn't as well served as the urban areas. So the Shuswap Healing Center. So since the last few months, CEO Kelly Bennett and I have had some interesting and productive meetings. On April 17th, thank you, Mayor Anderson, for getting that started. We met with Roger Franklin from the Shuswap Community Foundation, and he put us in touch with Dr. Lori Main and Jen Dyes from the newly formed Shuswap Cardiac Society. And they've expressed some interest in taking up some space in the new center. What that's going to look like, we don't know, or even if it's going to materialize. It is a really great fit. The mission of the society is to provide support, education, and rehabilitation services to individuals impacted by cardiac conditions in the Shuswap region. And the purpose is to offer programs including exercise and lifestyle guidance for those who are recovering. This support and education will also be extended to their families. And as such, they've expressed interest in the center. So I've been in touch with Jen Dyes a couple of times since then. And there is a memorandum of understanding out to them for occupation. And on April 29th, Kelly, project manager Brian Marr, and myself met with Tamipla's Felix and Kim Basket from Splatcheen to discuss the programming and potential interior finishes of the traditional healing space. And that was the purpose of the meeting, and it we didn't really get to that, but we did, it was a really great conversation. And what they wanted is to have a community engagement session. Now, it bears noting that the First Nation Health Authority, or FNAW, traditional wellness vision is to improve the mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical well-being of First Nations while strengthening the traditional healthcare system through a partnership between traditional healer practitioners and Western medical system. And the goal is to ensure that together we can achieve this. So it was really pleased with that encounter with them. And so that they requested the community engagement session, and since then have been in touch. And so we've got June 17th and the evening of June 17th set out for that meeting. And so working on, there's going to be lots of components to it. And what's actually going to materialize us, we're still waits to be seen, but we're putting together a presentation, and we're going to host a meal there as well. So, which is really, it's a real big cultural piece. So we're doing. Any questions?
Okay, thank you, Karen. Councillor McCabe.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's great that you guys are getting together on June 17th. Is that just a staff function? Are we keeping council out of that or what?
Oh, no.
Go ahead, Kelly.
Yeah, no, thank you through the chair. So definitely mayor and council invited. So this was originally scheduled for August of 2023 for a community engagement on what the actual Shuswap Healing Center is. And then that got postponed because of the fire. And then there was other changes that were occurring there. And so now we have a new council. Really, the point of the meeting, we were just letting them know where we were at. And they said, if you want some input, come to the community. So yes, mayor and councils is invited. I think it's I think around 5 o'clock on June 17th.
That's tentative right now.
Yeah. Yeah, but definitely mayor and council are invited.
Perfect. And you guys will be doing a big.
And we'll be doing the presentation.
And
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds great. Anyone else have questions? Councillor Beach.
Through the chair, just to clarify, that's in Spotching, that's in their community.
Yes,
And it's for the entire community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
they're anticipating maybe 75 people.
Okay, perfect. Councillor Evans.
Thank you to the chair. Where will, I'm just writing it down. I missed that part.
And it'll be in Enderby.
In Enderby, yeah.
And once the details are firmed up, we'll send meeting invites, and for those people who want to attend, they can attend. Yeah.
Sounds good. Anyone else have any questions for Karen? Karen, thank you so much. It was, as usual, very informative, and that's lots of good news. Thank you. You as well. Okay, moving right along. Main Street frontage improvements. Daryl, take it away.
I was laser focused and then my little iPad started ringing and said it had a phone call, so I don't know why that happened. Okay, so really important day. We're all here to talk about Main Street, and we've got 425. That's now a project that's traction. We've been going back and forth with that developer a little bit. It's time that we get council to weigh in on some weighty matters that have to do with impacting Main Street in the future. So specifically, I want to talk about the frontage on Main Street and what that's going to look like going forward. 425 Main has always been operationally in our mind as kind of a catalyst for what is going to happen on Main Street. So we've got the cross sections for the subdivision servicing bylaw in draft form and ready to come. A lot of things dependent on what happens here at 425 Main. So now we have a better idea of what they want to deliver to us. So I just thought we could run through some existing conditions, what's there now. We could talk about some future plans and then the impacts, the timing, and then a couple of takeaways for staff so we can go back and talk to the developer. So if we take a section from the top of 425 Main, we're basically dealing with 24-meter road right of way. So 12 meters from the center line to the property line is kind of what we have to work with. As you can see, there's a significant buffer there. There's a water line on this side as well, which we'll get into. That is a scheduled project that needs to happen in the next little while. So there's a few moving parts, but we can go through this. And if you guys have any questions, we'll try and answer as best we can. So the right of way is 24 meters, 12th in the center line. That would allow a 4-meter driving lane, a 2-meter sidewalk, and essentially 6-meter as a shoulder or a buffer. So in our subdivision servicing bylaw now, the cross section shows just back of the asphalt, an unspecified amount of space, but it just says variable. So they blocked off a good amount of space. And primarily we've been using that for snow clearing. So that's where we pile the snow on the south side. So this project would impact this big area. Okay, so keeping in mind, north side of Main Street, we have sidewalk already existing. The snow all comes to this side. So it's getting trickier. As we develop, it gets a little trickier. This is just a preliminary rendering from the architect for the project. There's nothing in stone here. They have kind of shown how it would sit back of walk with the 0 setback. That's kind of the layout across primarily a double property with the driving lane coming out. So if we go back to our center line, we've still got our 4-meter driving lane, which we have to have, 2-meter sidewalk here. And this area here, we've got it depicted as a bit of a buffer, which could be angle parking, because we've got 6 more meters to play with in this area. If we did an angle parking, it would take 5 meters. So we could do some angle parking in front of here. We could do parallel parking for 3.5 meters. We have some options to create some buffer space. We could do some parking and some angle and just kind of work around the street lights and just work with the developers so that there's a provision for snow. Or we could eliminate the snow removal and continue to make it tougher. We would have to look at getting equipment sooner than later, though, that would have to move the snow instead of just casting it to the side. So I think there's a balance that could be struck here with some angle parking. So a few years ago, we identified Main Street as a project we wanted to do for the frontage. We knew 425 would kind of be the impetus for that project to get rolling. We didn't know what was coming, what would be needed. But we did go out and we got some prices on what it would take to upgrade the frontage on the south side of Main Street. This was done in 2021, and we came in at about 2.2 million. It's probably closer to 2.5, maybe even a little bit higher now. But a big component of that is the underground power. So it was coming in around 800,000, 7 to 9. You have to remember, if you do the underground power, there's challenges with that as well. There's properties that will develop in the future. We don't know how to stub those out yet. So they'd have to overcompensate at all of those locations. So you'd be paying extra. Then you've got TELUS and you've got fiber. And then you'd have to do the connections. If you're dropping the service like we did on Shuswap Ave, we had to bring individual services into every resident. Because it's not really on them to do it. If we put the power underground, we were on the hook for it. So it climbs and it climbs. I guess the good news is there's a beautification grant that usually pays for about 1/3 of the underground power, but it's just the BC Hydro component. It's not the fiber, it's not TELUS, it's not anything else. And the third sounds better than it is from experience. Anyway, the water line was identified to be upsized. It's a 6-inch line, AC, it's old, and it is sufficient to service the new building. They'll have enough water flow. I know the developer would like to have more water flow. They get to a certain point and then they get better insurance rates, or they can build without firewalls or that kind of thing. My understanding, and Zach can clarify later, the flow required to eliminate the firewalls is about 200 liters per second. We don't achieve that anywhere in Sycamoose. So our water line is what it is. It would improve from 100 liters per second to 130. So it would be a little bit better, but it is old and it is a little undersized. So it's been identified as something that needs to happen. Sidewalk, curb and gutter is another part of it that would happen with the frontage. And the power underground was identified and costed, but it was removed from the DCC component of our projects. And we did the same on Riverside because it drove it up so high, it made the DCCs very high. So at that time, we looked at it and we determined underground power is going to be very expensive. So something to consider. And I guess today why I'm here is we need to kind of make a decision. Are we okay to, follow with what the developer is asking in this case for a variance and to go with overhead power at the location? Or do we go by the letter of the law and the bylaw and make them do their own? And if so, are we paying for it or are they paying for it? So that's a big direction that we kind of need to talk about. The second one would just have to do with, is council okay with staff approaching this developer, coming to some kind of a balance that we could get in front of you at some point in terms of buffer space and parking space? I think those are a couple key points for us going forward. We still want to do the frontage improvements. We could take cash in lieu. And if we take cash in lieu from the developer, they'll be building all the next year and then probably 2026, they'll look to fill that building. We could maybe expedite the project. I wouldn't commit to it. If we were going to do the power, I would say it'd be another year. But if we were looking at 2026, we could probably do our frontage improvements all at that time. So I'm open to any ideas or thoughts or questions.
Start with Councillor McCabe. Thanks, Daryl.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you through the chair and thank you for your presentation. My question is, I know it's costly, but why not also from Shoe Shop to Riverside? You're gonna have the contractors mobilized. You're gonna go through the process of getting contractors and mobilizing them and everything. There's power heads over, overhead power lines on from Shoe Shop to Riverside. And not clean that up too, underground power. I support underground power and it would probably double that estimate, probably to 4 million, because it's another block. But that would square us off right to Riverside for the rest of Main Street. It's never cheaper than it is now, kind of thing, right? The longer you wait, the more expensive it is. Why aren't we looking down all the way down to Riverside for power underground?
Costing essentially. I mean,
But you're mobile, sorry, if I could.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean,
But you're mobilized, you're going through all the procedural stuff of tendering and awarding and mobilizing. Maybe we might have to finance that cost somehow because it's never cheaper than it is now.
Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I don't support doing the underground power at this time either, because you don't actually know how that's gonna all develop and it will add cost. The other thing with underground power is I get what you're saying, that it's never cheaper now. I just don't know if it's actually necessary in this respect for that to actually be built out properly. I don't want to spend any extra money until we actually have some sense around what we're going to be doing for water treatment upgrades, what some of these other really large projects that we know we have to do. This is kind of a nice to have, not a must have, but we have some must haves coming. And I think if the developer is happy with the overhead lines and we can work with that, and as we get a better idea, once this 425 Main Street piece is in there, it probably will spur other development interests along the path, and then we'll see how those other lots kind of develop. Because I think it will have that impetus. Then that's probably the time we could be looking at a larger plan. In terms of taking the whole Main Street and doing it all at once, incredibly disruptive right across the board, trying to put those power lines underneath. It'd have to be done at a certain time of year too, because I think a lot of people would be worried if you were doing it in July and August, things like that. It's a big project. So in terms of us trying to get 425 going and everything rolling, I think leaving the overhead lines, I mean, it's obviously, everybody would love to have them vanish and not be there, but in terms of practicality, I'd say leave it, and then we'll see how 425 spurs the development along the way, and then try to figure out this next big piece with the water treatment plant, what we have to do, and all the money around that, and then see what we have for more discretionary types of projects. That's my opinion.
Thanks, Councillor Bailey. Kelly, go ahead.
Yeah, I just for some quick clarity and some background on this underground power and why we're here to get council's direction is so historically, so like from 2020 to 2022, we had underground power in our DCC bylaw for Riverside as well as for the Main Street. So we always had that incorporated as when we develop those areas, we're gonna do underground power. So we did, and we did do it for Shuswap when we did Shuswap. And so as of this last year, we have now taken out the underground from the Riverside project in our DCCs and our Main Street as well. However, it's still in our subdivision servicing bylaw to do underground on Main Street. So really the question is do we want to be moving forward doing underground in those core areas or not, right? It does add cost. However, our Main Street is also really important too. So this is where you could go either way, but just so some background. So we have done some with underground, not, we're kind of in this little middle point and we're fine going either way. And I don't think a decision has to be made today because we're just talking about it, but it's something that we will need to, as this development moves forward, we'll have to figure out over the next few months, which direction we're going to go on that.
Thanks, Kelly. Councillor Bushel.
Through the chair, yeah, thank you, Colleen. Yeah, I kind of, I agree with Malcolm. It would be nice to have underground. It would really be nice to have underground, but I think we're almost this project is basically a partnership, and if the developer hasn't cash flowed $900,000 or $800,000, I think this is the make or break for the developer at this stage. But yeah, I agree with Councillor Bailey. We have a lot of other big items that we're concerned with, I think, and to finance it, to finance underground power would be fairly costly, but I know it has to be done sooner or later. But right now, I think it'd be nice to see a big development go ahead on Main Street, and then, like you say, like Councillor Bailey says, follow suit afterwards. That's kind of like my opinion, and it's just a little bit late in the game to be, I think, asking for $800,000 or $900,000 now for underground power. And I do agree with Daryl. It's tough for public works. We kind of always said we'll plow snow to that side of the street, but sooner or later we're starting to get development happening, and yeah, we're going to have to start planning there for snow removal as well. So it's a tough question, and but thanks for bringing it to our attention, Daryl. And I if you want to vote on it today, I'm fine with voting on it. But if you want to wait as we find out more information, that's fine too. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Bushel. Councillor Rich.
Through the chair. Thanks, Daryl. Lots of really great information and learning lots about parking and underground and costs. Yeah, I mean, I think it would be incredible to have everything underground. I think we need to finish some of the projects we have going, and we've got a lot of big, expensive things happening and coming up that are very, very important to this town. So just in my opinion, this would be absolutely wonderful, but maybe not something we should be taking on. And on the housing committee, as Gord said, I would be very concerned. Our developer was looking at costs between 2 and 3 bedrooms and 1 and 2 bedrooms, and how his rentals were going to go with that, and garages and all that stuff. And I would be very concerned if we go back to him and say, we have all our timelines set in. These guys are super excited. We're pretty set to go on this one. And if we say, hey, could you cough up 900,000? I can see that being a deal breaker, and housing is very, very important in this town. We absolutely need it. So again, I think the underground would be wonderful, but I just don't think this is the time.
Thanks, Councillor Rich. Councillor Beach.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, I think, I agree with the concept that it is wonderful that we're looking forward to putting it underground. Ultimately, that's what we want, but, I would be concerned about the additional cost for the development and the delay at this time when we really need the project to move ahead as quickly as possible.
Thanks, Councillor Beach. Councillor McCabe.
Yeah, thank you for all counselors' comments. So paring it back just to Paradise, she shot to Paradise at the 2.2. How much of that cost would be at the expense of the developers? Because we have already accumulated some DCC costs towards underground. And I believe it's our OCP for Main Street and Riverside to go underground. So how much would that impact our development on 425 if we were to go underground?
Kelly.
That's a good question. It would be a portion. I don't know how much. I mean, whether we do the offsite works or they do the offsite work. So if we decide, you know what, in 2026, we're gonna do the curb gutter, sidewalk and the water line, because that needs to get done anyways, then we would collect whatever their frontage portion, an estimate, we'd get an estimate for what that piece is, and we'd collect that money from them, and then we would do the works when we were ready to do the work and supplement it. So we'd have to find the distance. I don't have an answer of exactly how much more the underground would be for this specific development, but it's not going to be 800,000. It maybe is 200. It'll be a portion thereof, and potentially how they design their building. So there will be a definite impact to not only the developer, but also for the district of Sicamous, right? So it's really looking at everybody's impact. So it's like this development is one piece of it, but it's really, do we want to invest in underground, and do we want to fund that right now as well, or not now, in the future? Because if we're going to get the developer to do it, then we need to be doing it too. And right now, for example, on Riverside, we've said no. We've taken it out. And in our DCC projects, we've also taken it out for our Main Street. So if we decide we want to put it back in, then we need to put it back in on it. We need to be consistent. Right now, we're not consistent on it.
Councillor Evans.
Thank you through the chair. I'd be a lot more open to putting it in, because I want it underground too, but at this point, unless we had a grant that could help us with it, I don't want to put that on our developers' shoulders right now. So yeah, it'd be nice to have, and I'd like to get going on it, but I would need a little more in the bank, so to speak, or an approved grant or something before I could. That's where I'm at.
Councillor Bushel.
Through the chair, Daryl, just a quick question. When we do our upgrades on Main Street, our water line, have we ever talked to Hydro and TELUS and Mascon about free conduit, like running the will they allow, approved conduit, or have them to do the install, but just for the conduit and not the hydro, so that it's actually underground when we do the work, and then when we do have the funds, we can do it later? Have you ever looked into that at all?
Through the chair, I know it exists. I haven't looked into it. No. It may be an option. It would just mean that 6 meter buffer zone that we're playing with on our property, we'd have to allow a little bit of room. If we're going to do a future conduit that went, in front of the sidewalk, we could come back and do that, maybe with a conduit in the ground. We can explore that and just see what that might look like. Again, it would take a hydro design. It would take a little bit of time, and I don't know what the cost would be for them to do the design, but we could look at.
Thanks. Yeah.
Okay,
Thanks,
thank you.
Councillor. Thanks, Councillor Bushel. That was going to be my question too, is can we prepare for it for the future? We don't need to do it now, but how much prep can we do so that we can?
With our own project.
Yeah, and tie it all in to run it in later.
I'll get back to you on that.
Councillor Evans.
Yeah, thank you through there. Just a comment, like the neighborhood across the tracks, those mobile home parks that they have TELUS Optic up right now. but it's not available on this side yet. So I mean, TELUS wants to expand. They even phoned me the other day and asked me if I want it. And then they said, "What's your address, sir?" I told them, I said, "Sorry, we can't give it to you." Because I know they're making plans. So I'm just curious about when they're planning on that. So.
So, and the second part is, go ahead, Nicole.
Thank you, through the chair. I was just gonna add, some changes are going to have to occur in front of 425. Because the building is so tall, I understand there's some poles that are existing in front of it. And that's quite awkward, probably being dramatic, but you could reach out and touch the pole. So that's gonna be a safety issue. So something's gonna have to change, no matter what the decision is, going underground or staying above. Just to ignore that.
Through the chair,
Go ahead.
and I guess I could have included that. That would be incorporated into any buffer spots that we were talking about, which we could consider that as well.
That would be a cost of moving them if they're
Working
in
around,
space.
yeah, I'd be working around them, having a buffer around them. And parking offset.
Okay, and the other question you had, Daryl, was about parking, like if we wanted parking in front of that building. So I guess my question is, if we have commercial, if we have 1,700 or 100 square feet of commercial at the bottom of that building, depending on what it is, should we not have some parking there for sure?
Definitely we should.
But, and then on the other hand, perhaps it's a coffee and sandwich shop. Should there not be some little tables sitting on the outside? Like, is there space for that as well? So I guess it depends on what's going to go into the commercial space as well before we can, lock it in.
Yeah, with the patios and the tables and that kind of thing, that'll be more addressed with the setback of the buildings.
Okay.
So I know that's coming up today as well.
Okay. Councillor McCabe.
Yeah, for the parking question, I think angle parking would probably be the way to go, in my opinion. We're lucky that Main Street used to be Old Trans-Canada Highway. We got that width down Main Street that a lot of other communities don't have, so we have the luxury of that. So I think we could use it for parking and still have the patio stuff, like you say. Also on top of that, so yeah, my opinion would be parallel parking in the front there.
Angle.
I'm sorry, I'm.
Angle parking.
Thank you, yeah.
I got that wrong yesterday too. Go ahead, Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, I was just gonna say about the angle parking, just to stay consistent considering, I mean, although we do have some parallel on the other side as well. But in terms of the lot lines, I think they wanted like a 0 lot line. Is that correct? I'm looking at just, yeah. Okay.
Planning, we'll be talking about setbacks here shortly.
Okay, then I guess, my other question is whatever they do in front, I mean, that'll just be, whoever leases that will have to determine it because some people will probably want it, other people probably won't. They might want to put a bike rack there or something. But, I think as long as we have that parking there to help service those commercial units, and that's probably our job, and the rest is their job in terms of whoever wants to run a business there kind of thing. But just a follow-up with the poles. So would we have to move some of them? Maybe move them away from the building, or we just haven't kind of done the analysis based on the design yet, the architectural drawings, or what we'd have to do with them?
Through the chair, we haven't done the analysis. I know I've spoken with their engineer and maybe it's a little preliminary, but he seemed to think they were okay.
Okay.
Where they were, but I mean, Zach will probably speak later.
But if there,
The applicant's on the line, so I don't know if my applicants, yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Then maybe since we're on this, I guess my question then to you, since you're probably looking at this issue, is with the telephone and hydro poles and how you have the building developed, how big of an issue is this for you, or for us? Obviously, we're in this together to move this and make this work.
Yeah, we
With
had
with the
a
power,
yeah, we had an intake meeting with BC Hydro last week. Regardless of what sort of happens with those hydro poles on Main Street, we'll obviously have to bring in BC Hydro to connect us to the power.
Yep.
So through that meeting and with our electrical engineer, we've sort of confirmed that technically, and from an engineering perspective, the poles can stay where they are. So all sort of proximities and everything like that are covered, and that's our preference and our intention to keep them where they are.
So maybe just a follow-up. Yeah, so that's critically important because BC Hydro is ultimately the one that either gives that a yay or a nay. So, I mean, if they're happy with it, and just to be very clear, they said that you wouldn't even have to move the poles?
That's my understanding at the moment. We haven't had a designer assigned to the file yet, so we just had sort of a preliminary meeting, and the gentleman that was on the call with us told us that they would be okay where they are, but again, we don't have an approved design completed yet.
No, but that's as good as it gets really when it comes to
At this
BC
stage,
Hydro.
yes.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Kelly, go ahead.
Yeah, okay, so I don't have a question. I just wanted to summarize the discussion. So what I'm hearing is there's an appetite to remove, like, to not include hydro underground right now?
Correct, but to look at getting it as close to hookup as possible.
Yeah. And also the angled parking in the front.
Correct.
Is there anything else you need some clarity on, Daryl?
No, I think that's pretty clear.
Yeah.
The angled parking in the front would maximize what we can do in that frontage. And I guess I kind of sold it in the beginning. I was hoping to strike a bit of a balance between a buffer and some parking. So, I mean, the existing power pole would be a perfect example where we might want to put a little bit of a buffer on both sides so we can maintain some snow storage, but still keep sufficient parking there for the commercial.
Sure.
So a little bit of both. And we could get it back for you to look at some point.
Sure. Mind you, the amount of snow we've been having, I don't know how worried you need to be about that.
Hopefully we have more.
Yeah, exactly. But even if we do, I'm pretty sure we can figure out how to get some snow off Main Street. Councillor Bailey.
I just maybe, do you want a motion or something? I don't know. Because we are kind of talking about something a little more fundamental here. We're talking about taking out the underground parking, the underground hydro as part of the DCC calculation, correct?
It's already out.
It's already out.
It's already out. It's a variance to our subdivision servicing bylaw, which will come forward to council.
Okay, and then we'll just make the variance there.
Correct.
Okay.
Just sort of looking for some direction right now, because, you know, we're in the discussion with the developer and we want to make sure that we're trying to, you know, answer all the questions and make sure everybody knows what their costs are and where the building's going to be located and what it's going to look like as we proceed with the development permit moving forward here and any future variances that we're going to need. So we just wanted to hash out a couple things.
Sure.
Perfect. Thanks, Kelly. Go ahead, Councillor McCabe.
Yeah, just to summarize what Kelly said, thank you. So yeah, we're gonna look at not going underground, but looking at, like our mayor mentioned, any potential works we can do now to prepare for future underground.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, Daryl, do you have any more to add?
Just to clarify, so we would be looking for future potential for underground, but that wouldn't be initiated now. That would be done when we do our project along there with water line.
Okay, perfect. Okay, can we move on? Everybody's good?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we're gonna move on to 425 Main Street Development Permit, Development Variance Permit. And Nicole and June are gonna take this one. Go ahead.
It's more just discussion points. So the planning team has collected comments from the developer and the different business units here at the district of Sigmas. And we have a few points to chat about. Oh, maybe I should talk about that drawing. It's just a really cool, I guess the proposal is superimposed over the lot and what that could look like. Okay, so the proposal itself, we've got, I don't know if the committee of the whole has seen this or if it was just the planning and development committee, but I'll go through it. We've got 91 parking stalls proposed, landscaping area of 22.14%. There's the fenced dog run at the east side, east center there, shown as A. And then the covered and separated garbage disposal areas are also shown as B and C for the residents and the commercial. And then in the back, we have garage 1 and 2. When I say back, I mean so. Okay, so discussion points for today, and we'll go through each one, but we're gonna talk about the position of the main building, and the main building is the big front one with commercial on the bottom, housing on top. And then, potential pedestrian walkway that we've been discussing, and access for, fire and emergency services. So for, position of the main building, thank you. There's a few things that this, building might, I guess, affect or interact with. One is atmosphere. We already talked about how tall the building is, and it's going to be very visible on Main Street. So atmosphere and the shadow that it might cast. We have some building massing requirements in our zoning bylaws. We'll talk about that. And yes, the road infrastructure that Daryl talked about earlier today, and then oh yes, for fire and then the emergency services, just where that would actually come in into play. Okay, so atmosphere and shadow impact. So I guess the building is shown in orange there. Jude has thrown that in for us for a visual. It might interact with some of the, I guess, community atmosphere. And so it's going to cast some type of shadow or a longer duration over the road and potential, I guess, properties around it. And so in our building massing, in the zoning bylaw, I know, I don't know about the front setback and what the casting might be, but I know on the east side of the building, if you do the calculations, we're looking at a 9-meter setback for the building massing and shadow casting. So that's quite significant. And so one of the, I guess, requests in the development variance permit is to vary that 9 meters down to something that is more typical of developments. So I can't remember what the number was offhand at the moment, 1.2 or I don't know. So that's another talking point for this position of the building. Do we want it set back further from the road, more west? We'll talk about that more. Okay, switching to pedestrian walkway. So there was discussion about having access for the new seniors housing, potentially along the east side of the 425 main property. So that's shown in the dotted yellow line. The pedestrian walkway could, I guess, be established in a number of different ways. Easement between 425 and the seniors housing, statutory right of way owned by the district of Sycamore, so it becomes our responsibility and liability. And the last one, thank you. Just wanted to show, so I guess the approximate length of the walkway would be 110 meters, and it cuts it down from an 8-minute walk around to a 1.5 minute, probably crossing the street to where all the services are, grocery store, bank. Okay, and last, access for fire. So there's also some discussion about potentially having a, I guess, connection between 425 Main and the seniors housing. And so that's shown in the red area there. It would take away some of the parking stalls proposed by 425. And this is just kind of showing the, I guess, fire hall response time. So to 425 Main Street is 950 meters. And then if we had a connection into, from the fire hall to Gordon Mackey Lane, that's 1.5 K. And then I don't know if there was a slide to show. Yes, thank you. Yeah. If you went through the 425 Main into the seniors housing, then you're at 1.1 K. So it cuts it off. Okay, so after we have this chat about those 3 points, we have to propose the development permit. And then we will fine tune the variance permit and send out a notification package to impacted landowners of the proposal. Later tonight, we're also going to be talking about the proposed rezoning for the entire property. So that's also a piece, but not something we're discussing right now. That was the last slide.
Kelly, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. And this is also before council today. This is a really big project. It's highly visible. It's really important to the district of Sycamore, and we're part of it. So I know at the Planning and Development Committee, we did talk about a pedestrian pedestrian access. And when we talked to Zach and Jim about it, there was a hesitancy to have that pedestrian walkway, worried about liability as well as some other concerns on their end. So, and as well with the emergency access, as this is something new that we hadn't talked about previously with them, there was also like worries about their liability and the removal of some parking stalls with that emergency access. And we have the fire chief here today, in case there's any questions. We had a meeting internally about that emergency access. And so if these were being built, if one was already there and we did the other one, we wouldn't require it. As they're both being built at the same time and it would be advantageous, right? So it's recommended to have that there, but it's not a requirement, correct? I'm pretty much summing it up. It's not a code requirement. It would improve the safety and access a bit more, but it's not a requirement. So this is where, and I know the applicant's online as well. So that's why we would just wanted to have a discussion with council today to see where you're at as we handle this project through.
Council, Councillor Bailey, Councillor McCabe.
Yeah, I mean, I think we slightly touched on the massing issue. I think there's no way you're gonna get to a 9-meter setback without just destroying the whole viability of the project. So that's a non-starter in that regard. We have to reduce that, in my opinion, down to something more reasonable, 1.5 or whatever. And I'm wondering if we do that, we do a statutory right away for the walkway along the east side, because that's where we have the massing problem already, or that's the issue there. But we're definitely not going to solve that with the shadow. If that would kind of work, is that okay? And then maybe just the other piece with the parking and how many parking spots are we talking about there in terms of we had it right through, if we had an access through, was it 3?
We lose 3.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah.
The chair, it will be depending on the weight determined by our preference. Usually if you were to inquire 6-meter wide emergency access, you delete 3 parking stalls. If it's 8, it's going to be 4 approximately.
Okay, thank you. And so Kelly, how does the developer feel about losing 4 parking spaces?
Yeah, so the applicant's online, so it'd be really great to hear from you on what your thoughts are on that. There's Zach or.
Yeah, the position of the building, I think, has sort of been told, and happy to answer any questions. And Jesse from Newtown, the architect, is on the line as well if there's any questions related to that. Regarding the walkway and the EMS access, the liability is just too much for us to take on, to be honest with you. And then furthermore to that EMS access, I understand, you'd lose those 3 spots immediately in front of where it's sort of posed there. I think in reality it would be a lot more. I don't know how you would get a fire truck to turn in that drive aisle there. So I think that's something to be considered as well. But I mean, bottom line, the liability of it is just too much for us to take on.
The liability of what?
Go ahead, Councillor Bailey.
Sorry, I just want to ask you a clarification. The liability is too much to take on in what regard? The sidewalk, or you're talking both the EMS access and the sidewalk?
The liability, the liability of the pedestrian walkway is what I was referring to. With the EMS, I don't know what that would look like in terms of an agreement or whatnot. I just was making the comment that I think the turn radius there is quite a bit smaller than it maybe looks, and I think we're looking at quite a few parking spots being lost through that.
Go ahead, Councillor.
If we took on just the statutory right away for that side, wouldn't have a problem with that then, would you?
I don't know what that would look like, and I don't know if I can, have an answer for that right now. In sort of speaking to our lawyers and underwriters and things like that, it was too much at that time. I don't know what that would look if it was, posed under a right of way or whatever, but that's sort of our position that it's a deal breaker for us at this point to include that walkway.
Okay, thank you. Chief, maybe I'll just go to you about the emergency space in the middle there. There's access all around to get in and if for the emergency vehicles if necessary. That's not code, not a deal, not a.
It's a wish list because of the configuration of the streets, the cul-de-sac on the one end. And because this 425 is how many stories? Five. So tactically, balconies all the way around, depending on who needs rescue. It would be great to have our access for our aerial in all spots, and the caller is correct. It may be tight for us to get in with the spots that they are. So it is a wish list. But the configuration with the cul-de-sac and response time, it would be much more beneficial to have some sort of access. And not to throw a key wrench in the whole thing. The high voltage wires on the front will be problematic for us on Main Street with our aerial if we had any rescue or even fire tactics. Underground would be much more beneficial. I don't know how many units would be up there. That would be a factor for us because we have to have quite a big setback when we use our aerial. Because it's metal.
Councillor Bushel. Thanks, Chief.
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, it's unfortunate that we can't have the walkway because it would make it easier for the seniors. But again, when you have seniors, you do have liability issues, and I totally understand where the developer's coming from on the walkway. I guess we could have planned it a little better, and both developments planned it before they started. Or where we at today, anyways. And as for the EMS, I kind of agree with the chief, though. It is very tight. I don't think you'd want to try to turn a truck through there. Just a small fire truck through there. It's pretty tight. And I for response time, I think you're going to find if there was a fire on either of those developments, you're probably going to attack it from both accesses, and you'd come in from one way and also leave a truck out on the street or come in a little ways. And that's kind of that's what I kind of think that would happen anyways. So that's just my thoughts. So, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Bushel. Councillor McCabe.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, listening to emergency access. I mean, both buildings are same distance from the fire hall. One's got Main Street access, one has to go around, I guess. But the response time isn't too dramatic, I think, to impact. So I think we could keep the parking spots and not have the emergency access between the two properties. But for the pedestrian walkway, I think we can work around the liability issues and have a statutory right of way or something there. We're supposed to be an age-friendly community. We are an age-friendly community. It's in our official community plan. And when we have a chance at the planning stage to accommodate seniors, I think we should. Because we're putting a new seniors complex, 37 units there, and for them to have direct access to Main Street instead of going around, they cut through that property already as it is. With the Haven Lodge and the Manor, they already cut through there, and it's just. I think we have a chance in the planning stage to accommodate our seniors, and we're supposed to be an age-friendly community. 55% of our population are seniors. I think we should try accommodate a walkway there, and we can somehow get around the liability issues with the statutory right-of-way or liability waivers or something. Safe harmless clauses or something.
Councillor Bailey.
Yeah, I just want to throw out a potential solution here is, we're already, ideally we'd have a 9-meter setback on the east side. That's just not going to happen. If we do a 0 lot line and we were going to give them a 1.5 meter, setback on the east side anyways, why don't we take that 1.5 meter or 2, and then we use that as a dedicated walkway that the district will then take on the liability for, not even part of the project. And then we go forward that way. So the developer doesn't need to worry about the liability. I agree. We should be having an access there with seniors. I think if we build it without an access, we're just gonna figure out really quickly that it's a problem. And it's gonna be an issue for people ongoing. So, you know, if we can do a 0 lot line and we can just take that buffer that we would have taken and use it for pedestrian access, maybe that's a solution. I'm kind of looking at you, Nicole, to see if I'm not totally out on a limb here.
Yep, through the chair. So you're suggesting that we would take it like outside of this project as a statutory right away and something separate that we work on?
Correct.
Developer, yeah.
But then, you know, so the developer doesn't need to be impacted by it. We were gonna have a setback there anyways. Well, we just don't do a setback. We can do a 0 lot line on what the new, again, then the walkway is effectively the setback, but we get the walkway. So, you know, just trying to take, I understand completely that he does not want to be liable for what is essentially a public right of way. That would have a whole bunch of, you know, insurance implications for the developer that I don't think he should be expected to take on. So, but I agree that I think there's a way to do this without, and maybe Zach can chime in as well.
Yeah, Zach's got his hand up. Go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, I was just gonna echo what Ian was saying, that if there was, willingness from the district to assume that liability, then we would absolutely be willing to look at that, pending sort of study from the architect ensuring that it fits and everything. Yeah, if there is a right of way or something of that nature established, then we'd be open to looking at that.
Perfect. Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Bushel.
Sorry, no, I guess I gotta lower my hand. I'm good, thank you.
Zach, did you put your hand up again? Okay, we're
No,
good. Go ahead.
just delayed in removing it. Thank you.
Okay, Kelly.
So for clarity, June, what are the current side setbacks on the east side?
According to the architectural drawing submitted, it's proposed to be 1.75.
1.75 meter. So there might be a way, and I'm just talking out loud, to maybe, because there's a little landscaping buffer around the whole building, front and back. And this is going to be a really tall building, but a really beautiful building, right? And we want it to fit in and work for our community. So maybe, and I don't know if this is an option, maybe, because like 2 meters would probably be good for a narrower walkway, right? So if the building could get shifted, a little bit over to the one side, slightly, there's a little bit of landscape, like shifting the landscaping. And even on the front, I don't know what the front setback is from the building. Is it 1.75?
It's dependent on where we measure it.
I know, so not the overhang,
Not the overhang, but if it's between the facade to the property line, 2.1.
It's 2.1 meter? Okay, so it's still 2, and then there's an overhang on the front, and what is that?
From the structural component, it's 1 meter.
1 meter.
1 meter.
So it's 1 meter and then 2 meters, 2.1 from, yes. So just so council's aware, if there's any appetite or willingness to from the applicant, because it will be a very tall structure to, it to take a meter of the back landscaping and move it to the front to just have a little bit more of a buffer space between the main street and a really tall building. And I don't know if that's possible and how Zach and his team feel about just some small shifting, just to give a little bit more space from the frontage, given the size and the scale of this to the rest of downtown Sycamoose.
Councillor Evans. And then I'll bounce over to Zach.
Thanks. I was just looking at the Google Earth of when the trees were there. And the shadow is just gonna be on the street. So the time of day that this was taken, the trees were really tall, so it's not gonna be, it might be a little bit on the parking lot of Parkland down to after they're closed, so I don't think shadow could be a problem.
Not even a problem. Zach, do you want to make a comment on the moving of the building and the right of way?
Yeah, we'll have to look at it with the architect in terms of positioning the building. There are sort of code requirements involved there as well. So we have to get our code consultant involved in terms of, if it's a right of way or a dedication. I think if it's a dedication, there's implications on our code requirements of glazing and fire requirements and things like that, but a statutory right of way could be possible. So I think it's something that we could, take offline and study and come to a solution.
Thank you. And I think from Kelly, what are you looking for from us right now? Like, I think the appetite for council is not too concerned about taking out parking spaces. And just the rejigging and see if that works.
Yep, and so because this is time sensitive and we want to get the development permit to council on the 22nd, followed up by some variances, because there will be some massing and side setback variances of which the neighbors will be notified. So we just wanted to have a discussion on the position of the building, the pedestrian walkway, which I think we've all talked about, and the emergency access. I think everybody feels like, you know what, it would be ideal, but maybe not on this project. We'll look at a statutory right of way for the pedestrian walkway, and maybe we can shift the building slightly, a little over and a little back. Potentially, we'll work with the developer to see if that's feasible.
Yep.
And we'll bring this forward.
Everybody good? Good.
Does the developer have anything else that they want to comment on or get clarity on while we're all here in a lovely meeting?
No, I'm happy, and yeah, no further questions from our end.
Perfect. Thank you guys very much for being here today.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Nicole, June. Okay, we're gonna get a healing center construction update. Kelly, take it away. We're getting close to 3 o'clock.
Fine, this will be a really brief meeting. This is just, so this is for the month of April. We received the progress update. So we'll look back on April. We basically completed all of our and all of our tie-ins. Congratulations, that's done. And a month we'll look ahead it's all about footings, foundations, forming and backfilling. So that's what we will be doing. You'll see, I believe they're pouring the footings next week, the walls. Yeah. So they're doing that, and you'll see our healing center will be high and dry. It is one of the more recent buildings that has been constructed on our main street, and it's at that 351 level requirement. So it is definitely higher, but it won't flood.
That's awesome.
That's great as we move into some severe
2012.
Yes, but everything is moving along nicely with the projects, and what else? So we've had 2 change order approved. One was for the various soft spots that they found. That was almost 70,000, so I believe a $74,000 change order for the additional digging that was required, and $4,000 one to make sure that the trusses and the joists can bear some future solar panels, which we're not doing the solar panels now. So there are some change orders up, but we'll have some change orders down, and we do have that couple $100,000 winter allowance. Good news is I'm working with the builder on finalizing the interior contract. So I've let them know that we are awarding it to them, and we're fine tuning the contract to try to trim and make it as beneficial for the district of Sicamous as possible. But with the inclusion of that and their project schedule, they have and I feel this is optimistic, but right now it's a end date of December 13th. So we could be moving the medical clinic in the first thing in the new year into our new facility, now that they're marrying the site works and yeah, so that was the most, we had an on-site meeting on May 2nd, and that's what they said at that meeting. This update will be in front of council every month, so I will let council know if that changes, but right now, I'm assuming it will be, but you never know, these guys are seasoned pros and they're out there with their team moving everything along. And yes, the 17th was already talked about, so we'll regroup on that. And our next meeting is May 16th with the builders. Here's some pictures of all the goodies they're working on. And yeah, and the site there's no safety issues, no minimal risks right now, and just potential material delays, but we're looking good.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Kelly. That is awesome news. Any questions or comments from council? Councilor McCabe.
Yeah, great job. It's gonna be a great asset to Main Street again. And I don't want to be negative, Nelly, but yeah, material aids because of the structural difference for the solar panels. what kind of potential delays do we see because of the change in material supply?
Yeah, through the chair, that's a great question, and we're not gonna see any because now what they're doing is they're changing the order and they're gonna start doing some of the interior stuff.
Oh, okay.
Because we've awarded the interior, so they're just changing the timing of when they're doing. So it's not gonna have any delays
Great answer.
overall.
Perfect.
Yes.
Awesome.
Good job, Kelly.
Councillor Beach.
Yeah, it's very, very exciting. That's a good, that's a good question.
Coming
Both ways from the solar and awesome,
Good.
excited.
Councillor Evans.
Kudos.
Yep, perfect. Beauty.
Good job.
Good job, guys.
We have a very, very long list of, now that we're thinking of 8 months of being in there in terms of what needs to be taken down in terms of equipment and security and just stuff, but that's not your problem, that's our problem.
Yep, that is. But thank you very much. Gord, Siobhan, you guys are good? Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, we're going to go into mayor and council reports. We've got 10 minutes here before we have to be in at 3 o'clock. Let's start with Councillor Rich.
Chair, I don't see her online anymore.
Let's start with Councillor Bushel.
Okay, through the chair, I just make it brief here. Community cleanup, I just wanted to thank Deb Heap and all the volunteers. It was a great day and we took 1,000 pounds of garbage to the dump, so that was a great day. Silga went very well. Spent a little bit of time with a lot of forestry resilience stuff and fire smart. Attended the Minister Rolston Zoom meeting and also Minister Ma in regards to emergency management, climate readiness. So yeah, it was a really good Silga this year and enjoyed it. And maybe I can, when I'm in person, I can bring everybody up to date a little better. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Bushel.
She's back now.
Councillor Rich, do you want to do your update? Okay, we can move on. Councillor Bailey.
Just had just several emails this week on some development issues and some park related issues that we've been working through staff. So thanks very much for all of that. And I don't know if there was a planning and development meeting, but I felt like there was. But anyways, there's a lot of interesting.
Kind of runs in.
Yeah, there you go. All done.
Councillor Beach.
Yeah, the chair, it's been an exciting last couple of weeks and the cleanup, I just want to say thank you for the group that Deb and the group that came out and did such a fantastic sort of up face to the manor and lodge along there. Looks really great. Also took in Silga and conference and went to the residential Indian residential school tour and the history and speeches and presentations about Kamloops and the partnership with the group there. And it was really inspiring because it was kind of an example of how we can move forward too. And so it was great. Took that all in and other things. And it was a great week down there. It was a lot of information.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor McCabe.
Yeah, thank you. I attended SOGA, the Southern Ontario Local Government Association. I'm on a housing committee also, and one thing on the short-term, long-term rental stuff, the provincial government is transitioning their laws into place effective May 1st. And one interesting thing is that opposite of downloading local government, in this instance, the provincial government is willing to enforce local government bylaws regarding short-term and long-term rentals. So we've had a 1 year of a grace period, if you will, and we're starting our enforcement now. And if our staff has got limited resources, we can just go to the provincial government and say, please enforce our bylaws. If I got that right, and I think I did. And so that was interesting to reversal of the normal downloading stuff where to help us with our bylaw 1000 and short-term rentals and stuff, that the provincial government will enforce our rules for us. That's about it.
Thanks, Councillor McCabe. Councillor Evans.
Thanks, just a short one. I've had several folks talk to me from the Silver Sands area and I asked them to talk to our office to make a delegation. They would like to us to reconsider pushing for no horn for the railway over there. So that's probably coming down the pipe. Just talking to folks about that. They've been coming to me with that. So thanks.
I think that's gonna require a set of arms. But we'll go from there. Okay, sounds good. And for me, I just want to thank everyone, Deb, Gord, everyone that was involved in the community cleanup. That was Sarah, thank you all very much for getting out there. Yeah, Silga had a bunch of great info. It is interesting that we are getting downloaded so much legislation on property that is privately owned and purchased and, and what people want to do with their property. So I find that a little bit interesting, but the Tenancy Act was well received, like it was all three of our resolutions passed. So that was great. So Sycamores does really well with resolutions. Like we always manage to nail what other people are thinking. So we should all be really proud of that. Friday is the grand opening for the rail trail in Enderby. Kelly, that's correct, right? Friday? So for those that want to be there, I think it's at 10 o'clock.
That's 12, yeah.
And 12. Okay. And I've had a lot of calls on and people looking for information on the ballpark and the dandelions and the grass cutting. And people just rest assured that Daryl does have a plan. Our public works team is working to get everything done. So it may not be done right now, but there is a schedule. Oh, what do you got there?
And corrected. It's being done right now.
Oh, it's being done right now. So, and we used to spray dandelions, but we got kiboshed on that. So now we have to put up with them a couple times a year. So just patience until our guys get to them. And they probably really appreciate that. Other than that, other things going on, but we're all good. We need some public input now. So does anyone in the gallery or online have questions? Go ahead, Deb.
I just want to make a real quick comment about that public right-of-way walkway. As if you don't do something, they're gonna find sneaky ways to get through that are a lot more dangerous. Mom has snuck through and fallen and hurt herself really badly twice going through Westview. So it's just, it's good to deal with it. Thank you.
Yep. Anyone else? Anyone online? No? Okay. We're going to do recommendation of the committee of the whole meeting for May 8th, 2024 be adjourned 2:58. Could I get a mover? Councillor Bailey, Councillor McCabe, all in favor? Carrie, we are done. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Great. Thank